Thank you for your attendance tonight. Before we get started with the official meeting, Mr. Worley, will you lead us in prayer?
Yeah, let us pray. Dear Lord, once again, we come before your throne just thanking you for your many blessings, Lord, and the blessings of this day. And Lord, we just pray that everything that's said and done during this meeting will just bring glory to your name. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to call this meeting of Columbus County Board of Education to order. Mr. Coleman, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Gentlemen, you have before you the final agenda for tonight's meeting. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Anything anybody needs to add? Can I get a motion to approve the draft agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long,
Second.
second by Mr. Worley. All in favor of adopting the final agenda, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on, you have the minutes from our February 13th meeting. Is there any discussion regarding those minutes? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Motion by Mr. Enzer,
Second.
second by Mr. Long. All in favor of approving the minutes from the February 13th meeting, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Mr. Phipps, do we have any public comments tonight?
We have no public comments tonight.
Thank you, sir. We'll move right on to special presentations and recognitions. Dr. Meadows?
If the board members want to come out front for recognition, and I'll let Dr. Williams have our certificates. So our first resignation, not resignation. First recognition is for our new blended learning facilitators. They have completed training and can now facilitate blended learning for us, and we want to recognize them and tell them how much we appreciate them spending the many hours of completing the training and look forward to them providing training going forward at our different schools. So our first one is John Browning from Tabor City. W.T. Edwards from West Columbus School. Shauna Jarrell from Nakina. Bobby Godwin from West Columbus High School. Amanda Green, one of our instructional coaches. And Kristen Sellers from South Columbus High School. If you all will come up and have your picture taken, that'd be great. And we say congratulations for completing the training, and we look forward to you facilitating training for us. All right, our next recognition is we have two students from West Columbus High School who have been working as a part of our, obviously, Career and Technical Education Department with Peterson Toyota, Chrysler Jeep Dodge of Lumberton to do internships. In the fall semester, we have Alex Price and Zachary Poole. Are either of them here, if they'll come forward? Okay. They are in Mr. Dean Byerly's automotive classes, and they have been undergoing training from Amanda Bass. Is it Miss Amanda Bass here? Oh, okay. Great. Is Amanda Bass here? Okay. And Miss Bass is the service manager at Peterson, and she has been working closely with our two students helping them to get different experiences at the dealership, from working with certified technicians. They've been furnished, obviously, uniforms, as you can see. They began in June. As a junior in high school was when Zachary started, and then Alex started in June and as a junior, and Zachary started in September as a senior. They both earned the Toyota Maintenance and Care certifications and will begin the North Carolina Inspection certification courses in the spring. Alex will travel to Atlanta, sponsored by Peterson, to earn his Toyota Master Technician certification. And Zachary has moved to the Chrysler division and is working on his Chrysler certification. All of these opportunities and certificates have been possible because of this great partnership with Peterson and the school system and West Columbus High School. We really appreciate giving our students this opportunity, but also for our students being willing to take on this experience, and for our teacher providing the education that's needed so that they can be successful in this internship. So congratulations to everyone involved, and thank you for going out of the way to make sure that our students get a work-based experience and making sure they have what they need before they actually go to that internship. So thank you to all of you. We appreciate it. We hope this is just the beginning of our internship, apprenticeship processes within the district, and look forward to being able to provide lots more of these experiences for students. It's an amazing opportunity for students to be able to do that. All right, our next recognitions are our Volunteers of the Month. And we have two from West Columbus High School, Corbett Booth. And Mr. Booth always gives time to our students and is a valuable asset to our sports program. It just wouldn't be football practice without seeing him on the field. Thank you for your dedication to the students. We appreciate you. And Rodney Singletary, the pillar of the community in West Columbus High School campus. Ms. Gore thanks you for your endless discussions about how to grow our youth in the most effective ways. Also, thank you for always being at the games and supporting the Vikings. And from Acme Delco Elementary, we have Janet Hedrick. She's a retired principal, actually, of Acme Delco Elementary, and she serves as a tutor for first and second grade students, and she is the grandmother of two of the students. And then Miss Karen Flood, she's a volunteer that assists in any capacity, whether it's giving her time to create bulletin boards or donating items to the school for students. Miss Flood has a grandchild who attends the school in kindergarten. And then we have our Chadbourne Elementary volunteers. They were presenters during Black History Month. And that's Brian Wiley, Andy Anderson, Jay Ross, Bernard Dockery, Brian Wilson, and Gwendolyn Roberts. And their Black History Month activities wouldn't have been possible without those volunteers. Old Doc, they're grateful and thankful to their volunteers. They've helped in many ways. Nancy Chestnut is a valuable volunteer that's made it, is helped to make extracurricular events possible for the students and is always willing to lend a helping hand. And Beverly Marlowe, Miss Marlowe assisted with Picture Day by making sure all students were perfect for their photos and their picture day ran smoothly. Nakina Middle School, they want to thank their Mustang Club and their members who have spent countless hours planning and making sure the Nakina Mustang Club reverse raffle was a huge success this year. They were able to raise money that will benefit the students. Nakina Middle School appreciates all their hard work and dedication, and those members are Dally Kennedy, Megan Kennedy, Tammy Nelson, Wendy McClellan, Thomas McClellan, Michael Bass, Leanne Smith, Tammy Cribb, Julie Sellers, Clay Reeves, Jake Fonville, Alyssa Nelson, Tina Hooks, Ivan Stroud, Lula Belganis, Anya Bryant, Jody Gore, Ashley Morales, Nick Manshak, Diana Roldan, and Kristen Wall. And we want to say thank you to all of the Nakina Mustang Club members. And then we have East Columbus High School's volunteers are John and Emily Grice for helping with academic intervention and serving on the advisory council. Those parents, these are the parents that want to see the school be successful and help out wherever they see the need. And Judy Pettaway, who is serving as the advisor for student council, spending countless hours working with students to plan and implement student activities and events. So thank you to all of those volunteers. We appreciate them contributing their time and efforts to the district in so many different ways. So if you all want to come and stand in front of the board members, we can take a picture. And we have one more set of recognitions to do, and we will get your certificates to you we'll send them by way of your principal. And this is the West Columbus FFA members for their participation in the State Poultry Evaluation Career Development event. They are Jaden Strickland, Samuel Lane, Andrew Nobles, Preston Price, and Jonas Anderson. The Poultry Evaluation Career Development event stimulates learning activities relative to production and management, processing, marketing, and consumption of poultry products. Skills such as selection and management of poultry, communicating industry terminology effectively, in addition to evaluating and justifying decisions, are attained through participation in this event. West Columbus placed 5th in the state out of 99 teams. That's fabulous. They also placed 1st in the South Central region and 1st in the Three Rivers Federation. Samuel Lane was the highest scoring individual on the team. We're really proud of these students and their hard work and dedication. They did an outstanding job. We're very proud of their accomplishments. The FFA at West Columbus High School always shines. Yep. Freddie and Jada are, if you're here, come up front and be a part of the picture.
Hey, they're dressed right, so we need them in the picture.
Thanks for continuing to make us look good, guys. Yep.
Thank you all for coming.
You don't have to leave.
No.
All right, we'll move on to curriculum, instruction, and accountability.
Kelly, Mr. Jones is going to have to get his mic. We're going to have Ms. Carter. She's going to share the EOG and EOC summer testing process.
So you should have a copy, I think, of the summer school information. It's scheduled to begin on June the 12th and run through June the 16th. The 16th would be a makeup day. That's if we have students that are not present on the EOG and EOC test days, then they would come on Friday, June the 16th, to make up that test. And the purpose of this is to improve functional skills or to access an enrichment opportunity for grades 3 through 12. Any student scoring level 1 or 2 during an academic year on a state mandated EOG or EOC assessment will be eligible to take this summer school assessment.
So, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the board approve the summer school EOG and EOC testing dates and process.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the summer school EOG and EOC testing as lined out in our handout. What's the pleasure of the board?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Enzer, second by Mr. Long. Any discussion? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're approved.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Carter.
And Ruthie, you have the document that Mr. Strickland has to sign, right? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Carter.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Scholastic Spring Take-Home Books.
So the next item is a quote from Scholastic to provide 3 books to each student K-8 to take home over spring break. And there was a cost, I thought. No, where did the cost go? That's the different document. The cost was, I'm gonna have to find that one for you. Someone else, so we had a little issue with the document, and then I asked someone to share the document. I didn't go back and look at it. Should have, sorry. There was a quote.
Sorry, I'm trying to take your pen.
The quote is, do you see the quote? Okay. Yeah, if you'll go attach it, we'll come back to that in just a
Okay.
moment. All right, so we're going to go on to auxiliary services, and
Okay.
we'll come back to that
We'll
item.
come back to that. That's fine.
Okay, under auxiliary services, number 1, 2 invoices were paid to TriTech in the amount of
First, in the amount of $4,647.32, and then one in the amount of $7,147.29. I have invoice for Shawstack Design was paid in the amount of $13,859.24. And item number 2, just going to give you an update on some projects. The HVAC repairs and renovations are ongoing. We finished the gym at Chadbourne Elementary and at Medelco Elementary Schools. Finished the office wings at East and South Columbus. We're starting on the gym at West Columbus. Timmy told me that the final parts did arrive, and they were at Hallsboro, and they're supposed to come by and pick those up and start on the gym at West Columbus High School. K-12 Athletic Facilities Grant, ordered 2 scoreboards. I'm just waiting on school planning to give me the go-ahead to put them up. And so I say I've ordered. I'm waiting for their finalization. I've told you this before, just this K-12 Athletic Facilities Grant, everything that's purchased has to go through school planning as if it was a major deal. So I've had this application. There are 2 separate applications for the school boards at Tabor City School and the football school board at West Columbus High School. I'm just waiting for them to approve it. Called today and you said they have a backlog. That's all. That will leave me about, or that will leave us about $16,000 left in that grant, and we have till 2024 to finalize that. But that money's come in handy. It's not a lot when you start purchasing stuff, but it has enabled us to do a few things for the schools. Normally, schools would purchase their own scoreboards, and things like that, but we've been able to do that for them, and they're extremely grateful. Item number 3, discussion and action on E-rate access point replacement. We have bids from 2 vendors to upgrade all of our access points. These are E-rate items paid for with federal E-rate dollars. And basically what this will allow us to do at all schools that we're upgrading, just enable us to use more devices at simultaneously. And the 2 quotes we have, the first one is from what's that outfit called? Accent, is it? Yeah, the first one is Accent, and the other one is Convergent. Convergent is Converged, and their quote was $471,895.96, and the other quote from Accent was $433,115.70, and we're recommending that the board approve the quote from Accent in the amount of $433,115.70, and these are E-rate items.
Mr. Chair, I recommend that the board approve the quotes from Access.
Access. That's it. I said Accent, it's Access.
Access.
Mm.
And for the access points, 433,000.
Yes.
Looking at it sideways.
$433,115.70.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the quote from Access in the amount of $433,115.70 for upgrading the access points at our locations. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Mr. Long, second by Mr. Enzer. Any discussion?
How often does this get done?
This will be basically a permanent deal until one day something better comes about. But this will really bring us up to speed in all of our schools. But
And when we say access points, that's access points within the classroom?
there's
Wi-Fi,
yes, sir. There's some in the classrooms, and there's some. Let me go back to the spec sheet.
It's all of that.
But there's some in the classrooms, and there's some that would go in like your auditoriums and your larger areas. Yeah, the top one, the 495, is for your classrooms, and the which you can put a smaller number of units on those. The 39 is for your cafeterias, your auditoriums, your gyms, and you can put multiple devices on them, many devices on those. And the 534 is the total, but that is your license agreement, the 5-year license agreement for that. Now that would probably come back for renewal, but basically this is pretty much top of the line, state-of-the-art equipment, and we should be good with these, because I don't see Now what we have to normally go back and do is replace switches and things like that, and there are none of those here. So this will take us a long way right here.
These are dollars specifically set aside for,
Yeah, E-rate are federal dollars that we apply for that pay a large percentage of it, of the costs, and basically it's for infrastructure, switches, wireless access points. Not sure if it will cover cabling. I'm not sure about that, but basically
I don't think it
hardware.
does.
I asked middle schools, more specifically the high schools, does this include at their, like, the baseball field, football field, will it reach that far so that, you know, streaming and
You know what?
you using the huddle and stuff like that?
You've asked a great question, and I'll have to defer that question to our
I don't believe so.
expert over there. I'll have to defer that to Kelly.
It's my understanding that those type of locations are not eligible,
For E-rate.
but we do have fiber going to fiber going to several of them now, and later on we can put wireless somewhere where it's available. So there is wired internet, I think, in all the press boxes. but no wireless.
Wired is
E-rate.
fine as long as we have it.
Yeah,
Yeah, wired is
E-rate
good.
has limit, I mean, it can only be used for educational, so we can't even use E-rate money for like the district office. So if it's
And
not,
I know like,
Yeah.
the building, the Wi-Fi goes out so far, I didn't know
Oh.
if there was if it reached out, how far it could reach out to those points, or,
We do have some external antennas that were put up during the pandemic that go out maybe 200 feet. But if there's a specific application, if somebody needs it, I think we might be able to at least look at that, since there is internet out there, it's just not wireless.
Not yet. Did I
The only
skip
thing
it?
that, like during your football game,
Did I skip?
even if it's secured, everybody's
Okay.
going to be pinging it, so it may have, some reduced capacity. We can definitely look at that.
I sure did. Okay. All right.
Any further discussion? All in favor of approving this motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is approved.
Okay. I skipped number 3, furnishings, because I'm sorry, I'm reading off my old agenda. Miss Ruthie added this for me. But I skipped the one on the furnishings, number 4, excuse
actually,
me.
we have 3 and 4 switch.
Yeah, had 3 and 4
Just noticed
switch.
that.
We added the furnishings in. Okay. Yeah, we added.
Quick.
Thank you so much. We added the furnishings in, but you have a quote for the furnishings at Tabor City School, and the quote amount for Tabor City School is, if I can get down there to it, yeah, it's a whopper. It's amazing, folks, what they do to get this quote. They take classroom by classroom the drawings from the architect, and they basically lay it out as if it's the place it's going to be. And when that furniture comes in, that's the way they put it. And we don't allow any deviation, simply because sometimes you start moving things around, things get lost. But the quote for the furnishings at Tabor City School is $898,622.19. And there is a quote with that, if I can get back to it real quick. That is the from Universal Equipment, and basically what that is your cafeteria tables. The Blankenship that we deal with on the school furnishings, they don't deal in cafeteria equipment, so we had to order the tables separately from Universal Equipment, and that quote is at $49,083.65. These are really in line with the West Columbus School. Very small amount of increase on these, and so we would ask that you approve these quotes. I will say that there are 3 classrooms at Tabor City School that we're going to wait until all the furnishings are there and talk to the principal and see how those classes will be purposed, and they could be used as other things. But what basically we may come back and order some tables for those classes, but monies are set aside to take care of that. So it will be very, very small amount, and this is the bulk furniture order right here.
And we're bringing it because it's over the budgeted amount
Mm-hmm.
in the construction plan of,
The budgeted amount is $700,000. We were over at the West Columbus School, and this is no surprise, because those figures were given over 2 years ago when the design was taking place. So I mean, it's no surprise to us, and this would be covered with contingency, USDA contingency money, which has already been approved by the USDA rep. So we're in great shape with the contingency. As a matter of fact, we're going to be in good shape with the allowances going back to the West Columbus School, but we're well under budget in both of those projects overall. So we're covered here. So we're asked that you approve that, and this is the reason we're bringing it, because it's over budget.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the board approve the quotes for the furnishings at, both quotes for the furnishings at Tabor City School.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the quote from Blankenship in the amount of $898,622.19, and the quote from Universal for cafeteria tables in the amount of $49,083.65. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Worley, second by Mr. Long. Any discussion?
I would like to say that just about everything I've looked at over here is discounted anywhere from 18 to 54%.
Mhm.
So that was,
Yeah, Blankenship, we've been with them, they furnished all of our construction going back to Old Dock, and they've been a really good partner with us. So we're getting very good prices, and if you saw the furnishings at West Columbus School, they look good and very, very high quality. So we've been pleased with everything that they've done for us. They did everything you see here. So we've been very well pleased with, and if there's a problem, we had a problem here, a small issue right here, and as they unpack everything, they write it down and they put it on a punch list, and they'll come right back and fix it if it's not up to par. They're really good, so we've been very pleased. Thank you for pointing that out.
While we're on that, I mean, just to freshen our minds, there's especially some of our high schools that need some new cafeteria furniture. The ones I've been in, we want to try to remember.
Yeah, we're going to shift some over to East Columbus to help them out a little bit, and but some of those, Adam wouldn't move his chairs in and out so much to wax that floor. He has been. I pick at him about that, but you're right.
And sometimes Child Nutrition can get grants that they pay for
Yeah.
new furniture. We just
They
did that
do.
in several schools, like 2 years ago.
now,
Mhm.
the cafeteria workers, I mean, do they take inventory on those and report that to Child Nutrition whenever things are going bad, or is it just something that the principals take care of? How does that work?
Well, it's kind of a conjunction of both. I mean, they alert the principal, and the principal knows. But I'm serious about that. A lot of times they'll move the tables in and out to wax. So they know what kind of shape they're in or what kind of shape they're not in. So, but yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
Now they all want to go to these
Hold up.
collapsible, yeah, and which is what we're ordering here. But we're getting ready. We salvaged some. I say salvaged. I mean, they're like brand new out of Evergreen. We're getting ready to move those to East Columbus.
Any further discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, number 5, Chromebook Life Cycle Project. Okay, you want me to do that? You got it.
It doesn't matter, either one of us.
Okay, we have, yeah, I'll start it, you finish it. But we're in the cycle of life of the Chromebooks and the hardware technology we have. We would like to, the recommendation is that we replace 1,047 Chromebooks, and Adam put this out for bids. And Dell were the respondents in Vision 21, and Dell came back in at $366,013.79. Vision 21 is $401,227.23, and as I recall in discussion, a lot of these were touchscreen, aren't they? Because they're going.
Just some, I think there were 150 touch
Yeah.
screens in there.
Okay, so not as many, but we ask that you give us your okay to make this purchase, and so we have tested all these devices out, and I'm reading the recommendation from Adam. So he's tested all these devices out and found them to be high quality devices compatible with the Lenovo units we currently use. And Dell is a great product. I mean, that's what we're using here, so we've been very pleased with their product. So we ask that you approve the quote amount from Dell Technologies in the amount of $366,013.79. And this is purchased from ESSER funding, is that right?
Yes. Yeah, this will be the, well, we maybe have one more year of replacement devices out of ESSER. But, so this is to, stay on our 5-year replacement cycle or, continue that process. So I'd recommend that the board approve the quote from Dell, that is actually the state contract bid. So they actually bid for technology, and that is the price that we were able to use, that the state was able to bid for. So I'd recommend that the board approve that quote and purchase of those Chromebooks and cases.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the Dell quote for the replacement of this wave of Chromebooks. What's in the amount of $366,013.79. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Mr. Enzer. Second by Mr. Long. Any discussion?
One thing on the Chromebooks, there's been several students at our schools that are losing their chargers and not having the Chromebooks available to them during classroom time. What is the protocol for getting them their Chromebooks back there?
Most of them are supposed to go to their media center, and their media coordinator manages the technology. And if a device is broken or charger is lost, something like that, they submit a ticket. The media coordinator submits a ticket for it to be repaired. And if they need it up, but they should be able to get a loaner in the meantime from the media coordinator. We have extra devices at the schools for them to be able to check one out. If they destroy it or lose it, they are given a fee. But the schools have been told that they're to document that fee, but the student should still be able to get a loaner Chromebook in the meantime, because they need it to be able to learn. So, yeah.
I noticed on the quote that there was only 40 touch screens.
So
Is
that's
that-
for pre-K through, I think it's second grade we use
Okay.
those.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so we did that this last year, changed out and made all of those. It's either pre-K 1 or pre-K 2 that they use a touch screen Chromebook. Mhm.
What age, what grade are they allowed to start taking their Chromebooks home?
Well, we say any grade. There are some classrooms that they're still a little hesitant about sending Chromebooks home, but we have said every one of the children should be able to take their Chromebook home and use it at home, just like they use it at school.
Yep.
So,
How is and you guys may not know, how's the resiliency of the touchscreen? Are they holding up well? Because,
I
I've got
haven't-
touch screens that go out all the time.
yeah, I haven't heard any complaints. I don't know, Kelly, have you? I've not heard that as a concern.
Okay.
I hear more of students putting a pencil inside their Chromebook and breaking the screen is
Cracking
what
the
I hear
screen,
more
yeah.
of, or losing their charger. That's what I hear more of than anything else.
Losing the charger of the Chromebook, that's pretty easy to do.
Mm-hmm, it is.
No comment, Mr. Coleman.
Not pleasant.
So there's no alarming numbers of devices being lost or destroyed or with them being sent home with third, fourth graders?
No. I'm not hearing that. Now, I haven't collected like a lot of information about that, like really pulled the numbers, but we can do that. But I'm not hearing that as a major concern. Do we have some that are lost or some that are damaged? Absolutely. But I don't see it as a huge issue.
Throughout the years that we've been doing this, have we been able to collect any monies, like if little Jeannie dropped hers in the bathtub at the house or whatever, are we collecting this and it's not going against us? One of my biggest things, I think we're doing a really good job with giving the technology and everything, and I just don't want it to be wasted.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and we are assigning fees. We have parents that do pay the fee. There are some that struggle to pay the fee. And so we have said, if they're, especially, like on the first occasion, it's one thing. If you've lost your Chromebook 3 times, you may not probably take it home. You use a loaner while you're at school, and it stays in your classroom until, you know, the end of the day.
How can you say for a parent or a child to have so many fees come up that,
Right.
I mean, because these devices are expensive.
Yeah.
You know,
And we have.
over the course of 13 years of school, I mean, if you broke 2 or 3 of them.
And we did ask, I know Adam and Kelly were looking at, I don't know if they've been able to, if there was any type of insurance that parents could actually,
Yes.
you know, purchase. And their homeowners may actually cover some of it, depending on what their deductible is. They're not that expensive that
That
usually.
insurance, like, I know like the cell phones and things, you know, you can purchase for $15 a month insurance for your plan or whatever. It might be something, you know, just,
I
Yeah.
thought we looked at that in the past, Kelly.
We actually had it in the past.
Okay, I thought so.
And very few parents signed up, right?
Yeah, and the company that was doing it, which was Vision 21, I contacted them and we had a conversation, and they said the vendor is not doing it anymore.
What?
I'm going to call, because I have a personal policy with State Farm. I think that might be the next best step, because for one thing, they're local, and they insure a laptop with my daughter, so we'll just see where we go with
that
that.
might be something
And-
that we can use it in the technology fee part to help offset, you know, because the school system don't need to pay for it, but every child that gets one needs to be covered.
I don't know about this particular cycle, but I do know, and Kelly probably remembers, is that when we went with Vision 21, this was a particular vendor at the time, we have some of theirs now, the cost of the insurance just didn't, I mean, it was so expensive
Yeah.
that, I mean, for the cost of the insurance, 2 or 3 years paying for that, we could replace Chromebooks and still come out a lot cheaper. And I don't know if that's still the case.
It is.
But
We
that's,
looked at it.
yeah,
The last year that we
So-
bought, the last cycle that we bought, we looked at it, and it
I mean, it
was
just wasn't, the insurance was as much as.
not for the
replace-
cost of the device.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that was my recollection as well, that we
Yeah.
looked at it, but the cost was so cost prohibitive,
Yeah.
it was cheaper to just replace the device.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what, for us, as the district, it would be very expensive, but if a parent on their own wanted to, so we were trying to see if there was an option out there, that if a parent, you wanted to pay for some sort of insurance for your child's device, just in case maybe that was feasible, but.
I know we had a
Yeah.
potential, I mean, with my work stuff, we have the capability to purchase a policy through Assurion. Same thing as a cell phone. That's who Verizon uses, and we could purchase that as well. So, you know, I don't know, maybe out there's an option.
Maybe just something to give an option to some parents, you know,
Yep.
especially some with,
yeah,
Yeah.
they may
Yeah.
choose.
Any further discussion? You've heard the recommendation. All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Sorry about that, guys. I got confused about where we were.
It's happening a lot.
Happening
All right.
tonight.
Okay, number 6, HVAC duct cleaning. We have several of our facilities that we really didn't do a lot of repairs and renovations to as far as the air conditioners go, simply because, the units were good and we didn't need to replace them. However, because of that, and we're trying to really improve our air quality, we put out bids for the duct cleaning at, as you can see, the administrative building, Williams Township, east, south, and it stayed out there a long time. And we now have some bids to clean them, and it is very expensive, but it is very time consuming, and it's really labor intensive what they do. Timmy was explaining to me today, but the cost to clean the ducts at this office was $28,475. East Columbus, $83,941. South, $83,941, and Williams Township, $38,449. And this will obviously improve the air quality at these facilities, and we recommend that you allow us to do that work.
So, Mr. Chair, I recommend that the board approve the quotes for the HVAC duct cleaning at the administrative building, Williams Township East and South, and this would come out of ESSER funding.
I was going to ask that question in the discussion. I thought it should.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And they, I mean, they take the ducts out, and I mean, they really, and then if there's some defect in them, I mean, they'll replace them, and, you know, so it's done right. When they're put back in, they're like brand new.
And this goes on during the summertime or while school's going on?
This kind of work will probably go on during the summertime, but,
Be spring break.
yeah, or yeah, just, I'm sure they'll probably do this when the children aren't in school. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
you've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the quotes for HVAC duct cleaning at the administrative building, Williams Township School, East Columbus, and South Columbus High School. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Coleman,
Second.
second by Mr. Long.
One quick question on on our administrative building here. Whenever transactions are made with the county, the school system takes responsibility of all maintenance to this building or the county?
We're doing the maintenance. They do major replacements, like if the roof or the
Chiller.
chiller or something like that, then
Something
they do
Yeah.
that. We do the normal maintenance on it.
Now, in Old Dock and West Columbus School, and also now it's going to be in Tabor City School as well. That duct work that they have in the classrooms and all, that you can take down and wash, would that replace, or would we still have to do the main duct work in the building?
You've got, well, I know an Old Dock. I know an Old Dock you don't, because in Old Dock you've got that mezzanine, and you've got the units up in that mezzanine, and basically when that sock comes out of that classroom, it's hooking straight from the unit. The
Okay.
units up there, so there, no. And there's very, very little duct work in the new schools. I mean, of course, you got your main trunk lines.
Right.
So it could be that years from now, several years, they might have to be looked at, but.
But it'll be a lot less than what we've got.
Oh,
here.
yes, and the socks, they're designed, of course, you take them down and put them in the
Right.
washing machine,
Right.
like you say there, so, yeah.
Okay.
It'd be less than what we've got here.
Lot
These
less.
other schools, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Any further discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, item number 7, we have bids for the HVAC control replacement at West Columbus High School. And let me click on that real quick. I see if I don't. We want to go. You see the bids that we have, and get to the bid tab sheet. We want to use Environ. Is that right? Envirotrol. In the amount of $117,287. And what we're doing here is basically we're returning control of the HVAC to the site. We were controlling them from one location, and that, of course, is just outdated, and we're having multiple problems with it at the high school. This is for the arts wing now. What I'm talking about, the classrooms and the auditorium, having lots of problems, and you can see the cost to return that from Siemens is just astronomical, and we can do a good job controlling it. Basically, what it does, it'll make their arts wing just like every other classroom in the school, where they just control it in the classroom, or there's a controller thermostat right there in the auditorium. So we ask that you approve that quote in the amount of $117,287 from Envirotrol LLC.
Mr. Chair, I recommend that the board approve the HVAC control replacement at West Columbus High School with Enviro Control.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the quote from Envirotrol in the amount of $117,287 to replace the HVAC control units. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Mr. Enzer,
Second.
second by Mr. Worley. Any discussion?
Now, is this going to wrap up for the most part, our major HVAC.
We're getting down there. We're getting to the end. I think the day we talked about, we had like 2 million outstanding. And, but yes, sir. This-
It just seems like
We have, man. We had a-
spending money on HVAC for about 3 years
And-
now. And
That's right, and this is stuff we'd have never been able to do, but our air quality, I mean, this is something that, this is what, one of the main things that Esther's was out there for, was to improve the air quality for our buildings, and that's what we've been able to do. But yeah, hopefully we're winding down. We're going to, because the money's winding down.
Any further discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Right, if you'll go back up to the curriculum the Scholastic Spring Take-Home books, you'll see the quote there. This is to purchase, like I said, 3 books per grade level for students to take home at spring break. And the quote is for $65,961.48, and I would recommend that the board approve this quote. And we will send those books home with the children before spring break.
Heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the quote from Scholastic in the amount of $65,961.48 for the purchase of books to send home with students over the spring break. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long,
Second.
second by Mr. Worley. Any discussion?
Is there any way that we can purchase apps, book apps or something like that for our Chromebooks? I think that may be a little bit cheaper.
We already do. We already have books online, Sora, and then Epic. Yep, we already have those where they can, and then they do have access to libraries, public libraries online. So.
How are we
This is being
measuring?
paid for ESSER.
Right.
We're getting to the end of being able to do this.
Okay. How are we measuring the effectiveness of it? I mean, we've spent a ton of money on books to send home with students. Are we doing anything to ensure that it is useful or that the students are reading the books? I mean, I don't know.
Most of the time, most teachers, I can't say all of them, most have had activities that they have done with the students once that break is over. So once spring break is over, they have conversations and conferences with students about the books, or they do activities within the classroom around the books that they have been given to read.
Okay.
Most have. I can assure you there are some that did not.
One comment to add to that, I haven't heard much about any kind of book reports or, I think that it would be good if, we're spending, $68,000 on books that, I want to make sure that they're, maybe not full grade or something like that, but I would like to see our students, working on some book reports or giving back some feedback.
I have received, now I didn't this last time, but on the first time, I received multiple thank you letters from students, from classrooms for the books that they took home. But, I don't know, they have activities that have kind of been given to them for things to do. Hopefully that's what's happening with them. And the books are sent with things for their parents also, to ask questions about the books, have discussions with their children about the books, those kind of things as well.
And they have been reviewed. And do we price them anywhere else besides Scholastic?
Yes, they looked at, there was another vendor they looked at, and the books were much more expensive when we looked at this last list from the other vendor.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. But I think, like you said, this is probably one of the last times we'll be able to do this because of ESSER funds expired.
That's right.
Going
Did they
away.
return the books back to the school, or they're theirs?
No, they're theirs.
It's
It
for
was
the
to try to start a
home
home
library.
library, try to encourage parents giving more books to them for their home library. So,
What grade is this?
it's pre-K 8.
Okay. All right.
The next item, I recommend that the board approve the out-of-state field trips for Williams Township, South Columbus High School, East Columbus, and Tabor City.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the out-of-state field trips for Williams Township second grade, Williams Township pre-K, South Columbus High School AP Government U.S. History class, and East Columbus Junior, Senior High senior trip, and Tabor City School kindergarten trip. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, second by Mr. Coleman. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next item is our new teacher cadet classes are going to want to attend the state conference, March 10th and 11th. And I would recommend that the board approve this trip for them to stay overnight in Raleigh.
Okay. You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the teacher cadet training program trip to the state conference in Raleigh in March. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Worley,
Second.
second by Mr. Long. Any discussion?
Probably need to update this form. Bob, please note.
Yeah. We've said that, they just pull an old one out of their stack.
Any further discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next item, you will see the draft calendars. The board did pass a resolution requesting that we have an earlier start. The state requires us to have a calendar approved for April 1. We have to turn in our start date as of April 1. Since we don't have a bill yet approved or submitted for us to have a different start date, and the state has not approved a bill for statewide for there to be a change in the calendar, all we're really left to do is approve a calendar based on what the law says right now. And so that's what the traditional calendar requires you to start the Monday closest to August 25th and the Friday closest to June 9th. And you have to have 215 days total for a teacher's contract, and 10 annual leave, 10 or 11 holidays. You can have you can either have 1,025 instructional hours or 185 days. We've used the hours because it really is hard to get the days in. If you have any work days in the calendar, otherwise they'd have to be outside of the calendar. So the other days are work days, optional and mandatory work days in the calendar. We did have a calendar committee that came together with our teacher advisory, teachers of the year. We had some principals. We had a couple of parents, I believe. We offered it to our parent advisory. Did we have a couple that came? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, we had, one, maybe two.
Okay. And so they met twice. The calendar committee met twice to approve this calendar. So I submit this to the board, and then CCCA, their calendar is always different because they align with the community college, and this is the calendar that they have created that aligns with Southeastern's calendar right now. So I recommend that the board approve the traditional calendar and the CCCA calendar for the 23-24 school year, with the hope that we can come back with a revision.
You've heard the,
We have asked our legislators to submit a local bill for us.
Yes.
Dr. Meadows, could I mention, so the work days on Fridays was an outgrowth of what the parent advisory members wanted,
Okay.
so the week would not be broken up.
Okay.
Who's got work day Friday?
Mhm.
They wanted them either Monday or Fridays, because for younger kids, they were saying it's a little difficult to stop and start, so that was a change that was made.
Thank you, Kelly.
you've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the traditional school calendar as well as the CCCA calendar that has been submitted for your review. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long. Second by Mr. Coleman. Any discussion?
Only question I will add is, have we had any issues with any of our seniors wanting to graduate early and just preventing them from enrolling in the college on early graduation?
I mean, I know we have some that take wait a semester. I've not asked those students specifically if that's the reason why, that they are not enrolling that semester immediately after graduation. I would think if they wanted to enroll somewhere that was not a community college, then yes, it would prohibit them from being able to do that.
That's something that, we talk,
Mhm.
make sure, because, we get into a situation now, I mean, some kids are, they're getting done,
Mhm.
and, they want to go ahead to NC State or somewhere like that, and they need to be able to do that, that's what it's like.
We had about, I'm trying to remember the exact number, and I'm not gonna have it exactly right, but I would say there were about 40 to 50 early graduates this year.
I know there were several at West Columbus, so,
Yeah.
but, what I'm hearing is that people have made the statement that there would not be a calendar bill brought before the legislature this year. That's what I've heard through the
I
grapevine.
read that this week, as a matter of fact.
Aren't we getting in trouble with
there's
our
set-
funding excuse me, but the last calendar, for a couple of years, we kind of had a different calendar. We got in trouble for funding. We didn't get in trouble, but what was the issue with that?
No, they changed the law.
Yeah.
They went back in and said they gave a specific definition of year-round, and so it kept us
Yeah,
from
we
being able
were
to do it.
utilizing that year-round provision.
But I will say there are several bills on the House floor for calendar changes. There are not any at the Senate, on the Senate side.
Right. That's what I'd heard, and, I mean, I understand that, that they're trying to, protect tourism in North Carolina, especially at the beach, the eastern part, but, I mean, how many of our kids are actually working a tourism job now?
Right.
So, all right, any further discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right. So update, just so that you know, I believe it's been on the calendar, but I don't know if we all realized it, but tomorrow night we do have a town hall at 6 o'clock. We're having it here. And we will be putting it out, be virtual, live streaming it. We had our active shooter drill, the 25th at East Columbus, went very well. There were probably 200 plus people there.
Oh, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
And it was a great activity for everyone to learn what their kind of jobs and responsibilities are, first of all, but also for you to kind of think about any changes that needed to happen to the safety plans. We will next week during the principals meeting do a discussion with kind of a recap about what we learned at the active shooter drill, and talk about some things that we need to make sure we all understand in terms of reunification of students. That's probably the biggest thing that schools have to deal with, is what happens to the students when there's a situation at a school. Where do they go? How do you communicate that to parents? How do you, how do you deal with the students once they get to that location? all of that kind of information. So we've had lots of good discussions at the tabletop exercise and also at the drill on the 25th, and then we will again at the principals meeting. So it was really good. We appreciate the Sheriff's Department and all of the local emergency staff participating and allowing us to participate. So.
One thing on the, you kind of, we can tie it into this, at our schools, I don't think we do, we don't have cameras in the parking lots, do we?
Yes.
We do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, and the cameras at the back of the buildings, like for,
Yes.
especially like the new road coming in the east and the road south that comes into the back of the school? Do we have cameras that can see that?
We do have one in the east, but we do not have one. Adam's going to install one because with the new building, we want one on that new building, so it would get that road. We do it south. We have plenty of cameras in the back of West Columbus.
I thought we did put one on faces the new building.
Okay, well, I knew we were going to. I hadn't pulled mine up recently, so he put it up there?
I think so.
Okay, because we requested one we put on that new building, so if he has that, we'll catch the road too.
Okay, like I said, I was just kind of looking at that road and stuff. Yeah, that's going to be a highly traveled road going back through there.
Well, they're going to have to lock it through the day. And they're
There's
going
no doubt.
to have to remember to lock it through the day. And because we do not want traffic going through there during the school day. No, sir.
All right, so on this, you have linked there, I linked it today, it just came out last week, was the Consolidated Discipline and Dropout Report for last school year. The state shared it in the state board meeting, and so I looked at the report just knowing that obviously the last few years trying to compare data is tough. And we know that last year and even this year we've talked about the behaviors of students have been much worse than they were before. And so we had a large number of suspensions, short-term suspensions in the report. We had 1,392 last year. Short-term suspensions, that means less than 10 days or less. And so that was 27, basically 28 per 100 students. And reportable crimes, well, in comparison, in 18-19, which would have been the last year before COVID, it was 744 short-term suspensions. So it's quite a bit more. The reportable crimes, which are the really severe, more severe crimes, we had 22 last year. Most of them were possessions of substances, any type of drug or alcohol. And in 18-19 there were 8. 19-20 there were 19. Last year, the year before that, when COVID, there was 0. In-school suspension, we were one of the top numbers in terms of the number of in-school suspensions, which was 2,040 in-school suspensions. I'm not really sure, there isn't a lot of data prior to make comparisons, so I don't know how that compares in previous years. It says that the reports have been out there in previous years, but I couldn't find them online. I'm not sure, I know that all of our schools, at least K-8, do PBIS, positive behavior, and try to promote the positives. I know that the schools are trying to work on, improving behaviors, but obviously behaviors are a problem still. We even know this year we're still having difficulties and challenges with behaviors of students. And so, we'll just have to continue to work on that. I can tell you that so far this year, our number of office referrals is down from last year, but don't know that, we still aren't all the way through the year as to whether it's going to be any different from what it was last year. I believe that, staff is trying, but there are a lot of behaviors that you just can't ignore. And if, I think the most prevalent thing is, disrespect, and failure to comply, basically. So that is something that we're going to have to continue to work on, but that is, we'll have some discussion with principals about, are there things we can do? But I know I've had discussion with a few board members that you don't also want us to just ignore misbehavior of students. And so schools are trying to work with kids, but at the same time, if they're suspended, they're not in school. So it's a double-edged sword. You want to improve the behaviors, but and you want them to be in school. So
Have we thought about the possibility of bringing back the alternative schools?
So we have alternative programs, but we have not talked about an alternative school. And there are pros and cons to an alternative school. They're very expensive to run, very expensive to run.
Do you get quarterly or monthly, or what kind of data do you get from our counselors and our psychologists and things like that? Is it?
Well, there are a lot more referrals to our mental health providers that we have had the last 2 years. It is significant in terms of the number of referrals to Coastal Horizons and it's Interactive. I always say the name wrong. But yes, so that has increased.
And we have one psychologist?
We do. We actually have funding to hire another one, but there aren't any out there to hire.
How should our in-school suspensions be run?
So it should be, and this is something that we have talked about in terms of some additional training in our in-school suspension, that they should be more of a discussion. Kids should have to talk about why they're in there and what do they need to do differently so that they don't end up back in in-school suspension. It shouldn't be a place that they're tortured, but they do need to try to understand what's happening that's causing these behaviors. And that is, that's
Well,
a
it shouldn't
challenge.
be recess either.
No, absolutely
Okay.
not. No,
And,
they should be
and the
doing
reason I
work.
say that, I was in a school last week and I walk in, check in at the office, and there's a conference room. And there's a long table in it. And there's 4 kids, one on each end, and one on each side of the table. And there's no adult supervision in there, and the kids are sitting there carrying on, having a great time.
And that was in-school suspension?
It's what I was told.
I don't know where that would be in-school suspension.
Well, in my definition of, and Jonathan, you and I came through about the same time, but in-school suspension, where I was when I came through, you didn't speak.
Yeah,
You worked on schoolwork.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to take in-school suspension, if there's not a repercussion other than sitting in a classroom, what's the behavioral deterrent?
Right.
And it also goes back to when the students, when students in trouble or whatever, I mean, there's no repercussions. They just go and they just cut around and have a good little time. And then it's just the next day, it's just like business as normal. And they keep going back, And I just think at some point, I'll argue with anybody, that a disruption in class from students or teachers is not good for the educational process of the other children that are there to learn.
Well, and that's the number one complaint. If I get a phone call from a parent, that's the number one complaint. My child can't learn because of the students that are in there that absolutely control the classroom, and the teachers don't control the classroom. That's the number one complaint I've got recently. And I mean, we've got to get a handle on behavior in our school system, because they are, I mean, and I don't believe in torture either, but there has to be repercussions for behavior in our schools. We're losing our teachers. Our teachers cannot deal with some of these behavior problems that they're having. And
We're going to eventually start losing numbers of students as well.
yeah,
But I don't want us to get the impression, I don't want anybody to get the impression that our schools are out of control, because when I walk through the hallways, I don't see that at all. And I want us to make sure that it takes more than just the staff at the school to make that happen.
agreed.
And so when a
but-
kid gets suspended from school, there needs to be some sort of consequence at home to go along with that. And so I can't, suspension and they do whatever they want, they go home and play video games, they're gonna wanna misbehave and do whatever they want in school, and so they get suspended the next time.
I agree wholeheartedly. That's why we control the environment. I think that's why we need to really take a look at our ISS programs and make sure that there is a punishment for that behavior.
And also,
Instead of it being, hey, I don't have to sit here and look at that teacher all day long.
your
I can sit here.
extracurricular activities that go on at school.
Exactly.
Yes.
If you've got a child that's got X number of days OSS or ISS or whatever, for them to be able to do the exact same things that all the other kids are doing.
And I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think once you get ISS and OSS, I think they're prohibited from participating in extracurricular activities, correct?
That's to the school.
Well, we do have, it depends on the, so we have rules in our athletic handbooks. We have rules in terms of our different clubs that whether they can stay in those clubs or not. I mean, there are different expectations for that depending on the actual activity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I understand. I mean, it's the number one complaint that I hear, not only from staff, but also from parents of kids whose learning is being infringed upon by students in our classes who are misbehaving. So that's
Yeah.
There's a lot of the steps that are in place. They're just not unified. They're not done the same way at every school. Because just as you
Agreed.
saw that at the school you went to, I went to one same last week. ISS was cubicles, they were facing the wall, and they were doing their work.
right.
And the same thing about the sports, and that's not being withheld the same throughout our system.
In case, I agree with you, Chris. So, but in case you guys have, or haven't looked through the 106-page document yet, the reportable events start on page 105, the things that have to be reported to DPI.
Yep.
So,
The other thing in this report is the dropouts. So in 17-18, we had 33, 18-19, it was 29, 19-20, that was COVID year, was 24, 2021 was 43, and last year was 39. So we basically stayed somewhere around similar numbers in terms of dropouts. We have parent advisory on Thursday night here at 6 or 6:30, Kelly?
6.
And yeah, I think that's all I have for
okay.
superintendent's update.
Thank you for the update, Dr. Mendes.
So you see the dates, and then Mr. Stanley?
Budget report through February 23. It's the first item under finance. I will try to summarize this as best I can. Through 8 months, We should be,
Sure.
our target should be somewhere around 67%.
Okay.
And I'll steer your attention to that far right column on that state budget report.
What?
We're right around
Never mind.
67%. Thank you. We're around 67%. At the bottom right, you'll see 72.24% expended through February. I would say that's contributable to a few things. One, our supplements that were paid earlier this year, any bonuses that were paid. And we do have a couple of programs that, well, one, I mean, if you look at the red deficits that we're forecasting, transportation of pupils, we're seeing right now with the outstanding POs of around 454,000 that we're tracking to overspend. Now, we have applied for contingency fuel funding, and we are maximizing that. Don't know exactly what that amount's going to be, but I think even with that, we may teeter towards overspending that pot of money slightly.
It's basically been on fuel costs.
Yes, I mean, I think that been a lot of maintenance repairs to buses this year.
On the fuel, when everything spiked up so bad, I know we talked about trying to, I mean, have we gotten anywhere with raising that money that we get because fuel went up so high? Or did we get some money for the offset fuel cost there?
And that's what we're applying for now.
We're applying for it.
For that contingency money that's out there. And I'm told that, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the millions that are out there. I want to say $32 million out there for school systems to apply for, and we have applied. The other pot here, PRC 78 K-8 literacy, we received an allocation for learning.com. We were supposed to have actually spent the money by the end of November. We had only encumbered it by that time and spent it the next week. And then the funds were reverted. I have to give hats off to Kelly. He has reached out to the vendor. They're willing to credit us that entire amount. But we're also fighting for the allocation, so hopefully DPI will fund it. But if not, the vendor's willing to credit us that entire amount. But that is the state report. Steer your attention to the Fund 2 report. Again, here our goal is to be around 67%. The bottom right now we're at 79.32%. There's one red item here. It's new and VIF teacher loans. That amount will be paid by the visiting international faculty and the new teachers by the end of the year. We're collecting that and deducting that from their payroll. You will see a balance in transportation of pupils of around $141,000, and that's PRC 56. So, you know, we're keeping that flexibility there. One of the items, if you look at the maintenance of school, you know, we transferred $136,000 to it, but we're still tracking 79.74%. What we have seen, or what I have seen comparing previous year's expenses, I'm seeing higher telephone charges, electricity, custodial supplies, and just general repair and maintenance, just up. You know, one more thing I do want to point out, we paid the property insurance premium for this fiscal year in this year, but then, and it doesn't seem that much, but it's around $250,000. But looking ahead at next year, it will be due again for the 23-24 year in June. So we're going to see an additional property insurance premium this year. We had a lapse there where about a couple of months where it was just not paid if that makes sense. Be happy to answer any questions there, but I do see or foresee us dipping into a fund balance slightly in our local budget. The federal budget report, looking at the far right column, federal funds are in obviously great shape, and I'll steer your attention to PRC 181, that's ESSER 3. We have roughly $10.3 million remaining there, and we've talked about a lot of those projects, and we have one more year to spend those funds. So I think we'll spend them, and I think the school system is maximizing the use of those ESSER dollars.
They have to be used by the end of 24.
24, yes, sir.
Calendar year,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay, that's what I thought.
They have to be encumbered by September 2024 and spent by December 2024.
Right.
We can encumber them.
There's one line here, 163, it's another ESSER pot that's slightly over, but we have $11,700 worth of POs out there outstanding right now, so I'm not overly alarmed with that one line item. The capital outlay budget next. Obviously, with outstanding POs, we are at 55.58%. We do budget $708,000 as a requirement for buses, but that budget is in good order. Child nutrition, 61% expended through February, and then the last Fund 8, 51% expended through February. So budget is in good order. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on any of those.
None for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm good. Okay, the second item, budget amendment number 2. Requesting your approval on this. The state public school fund we have seen, and the last time I think you guys reviewed this was back in January, and that was through basically December 31st, and this of course is through the end of February, but we have seen an increase in state funds of $961,103. I hate to go through all of those, but the largest of that increase was $659,000 roughly in transportation. That was our remaining 20% of the allocation. We have received bonus funds since that time. School technology fund received a whopping $11. And we also have received another large pot here, school bus safety pilot program, $516,797. So that's contributes that $961,103. And local current expense fund, no increase here, just basically transfers among the different programs. Federal grant funds, we've seen an increase of $14,743. CTE received $11,986, and preschool targeted assistance received additional $2,700 roughly. Let's see, capital outlay fund, again, no increase or decrease in the budget, but just transferring among the different pots of money here. Child nutrition, no change. And then our Fund 8 other restricted fund, increase of $210,904. I will take some time to go through this. We received, Williams Township received Jimmy G. Grant Fund 64,546. Kelly Jones, thank you. Additional arts grants, $10,000. We received a Divine Living contribution for $2,500. We're budgeting cable channel funds for $17,663. One of the questions the last time I went over this was maintenance in the Fund 8, and what is that? It was $500. Well, it was actually sunshine funds that one of the schools had received, and cleaned that up. So That's, there was $500 in this that's contributable to that. Tabor City Elementary School, Jimmy G grant, $29,850. Nakana Middle School, Jimmy G, $24,300. 21st Century grant, $3,757, and we had carry forward athletic facilities grant funds of $80,288. So that contributes to the 210,904. Recommend this budget amendment number 2 for your approval.
So, Mr. Chair, I recommend that the board approve budget amendment number 2 as presented by Mr. Stanley.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve budget amendment number 2 that Mr. Stanley presented to us tonight. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, second by Mr. Enzer. Any discussion?
I have one question. One of the last ones you mentioned was some sort of athletic fund grant?
Yes.
What is that?
The athletic facilities grant, that's that.
That's the green.
Okay.
Yeah.
He might be showing more than we spent. We encumbered out there all the way back.
Yeah, we actually have spent some of it already this year, but
It's just K-12 athletic facility.
Okay, I thought it was.
we had just not budgeted that revenue.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's been a long day, guys. All right. Budget presentation.
All right, so the next one, you have a link to the budget presentation that I am, it's in draft form for you all to provide feedback as the presentation for the commissioners. You should be able to click through it as I talk about it. This is for next Tuesday. We have our budget presentation with the commissioners. Similar, it is in the similar format to what we have had in previous years. So the same discussion around our ADM that we have been declining. DPI did project that we were going to be at 5,068, but we were actually more than that. And actually from last school year, we actually increased by 125 students. But the state determines our funding. The reason why we have a negative funding over there is because, remember, we were held harmless for a couple of years during COVID, and so we've had a reduced amount of funding from that time. And so that's where that's coming from. But we hope that that continued increase in ADM occurs in the next years.
And we may need more than 99.
That's right. We need 100.
We need 100.
100 more than our projection. That's right. And we haven't received those projections yet from the state. This is just a reminder that for the last couple of years, the next slide is that we've received ESSER funds. You can see that the first one, it was already expended by 2022. We have to have ESSER 2 expended by the end of, or by 2023 this summer. And then ESSER 3 is next school year, will carry us through next school year. The next slide is where we are, or where we will be for next year in terms of ESSER funding. We have around $2 to $2.5 million left in air quality. $2 million is the projection on additional staff. The supplements that we pay, the extra supplement that we're paying of 2%, you'll see is $2 million more. The curricular materials, $1 million, and technology, $1 million, continuing those. Somewhere around $8 million is what we will have left for next year in ESSER. So in current expense, if you flip next 2 slides, this is just a reminder of what our priorities were for this year in terms of what we talked to the commissioners about. This is the same slide that we used with the commissioners last year, in that our priorities were around retention and recruitment, making sure that we were paying all employees that $15 minimum, adjusting for the loss of ADM based on the held harmless status, improving reading and math skills, and using some different resources to offset that lost instructional time, focusing on some STEAM opportunities by putting some stuff in our science labs, increasing technology and engagement, and then also the workforce connections by expanding our CTE programs that we're offering at our schools. And we said we were going to add internships and apprenticeships. We've done a little bit of that, but not as much as we hoped to. So the next slide, just kind of making sure everybody knows what our current expense covers. Off the top, in our current expense, we send $600,000 of that to charter schools. We pay for utilities, we pay for insurance, we pay for our supplements, custodial supplies, our athletics supplements, transportation. The transportation overage, our efficiency rating is around 90%, so that extra 10% we actually have to pay. And then some positions. That's what's covered in that local current expense. The next slide is really talking about, so this next year, the current expense priorities is the letter that I shared with you last month. And then this is really about sustaining those priorities and that fixed cost increase sheet that I had shared with you last month. And that fixed cost increases is, if you base that on a 6% pay increase, is right around $750,000. But note that the state board approved a resolution this past week asking for a 10% pay increase. And if that happens, our fixed cost would be around a little over $1 million versus the $750,000. And basically, we're sustaining that recruitment and retention of employees, effective education, services for students, keeping counselors, social workers, and nurses available, and obviously having opportunities for students in the arts and CTE. And if we are to expand educational experiences for students, we would have to look for other funding if we, to be able to do that because of the fixed cost increases. Any questions on current expense? All right, capital. So just thanking the commissioners for their funding of our new schools and the capital projects we've done this last year. Our two new schools, the capital funds provided a match for our security and safety grant because it ended up being more than the original price that we thought. Roof repairs, you can see at those schools, Hallsboro, Acme, Delco, Chadburn, Nakina, and Plant Operations was $880,000. Ceiling and stripe the parking at the high schools, $120,000. You see the front drive replacement at West Columbus and fire alarm equipment replacement. The renovations to this building, we received the $350,000 for the purchase of our old building. The full cost of the renovations was $631,000, so we had to pay the additional $281,000. And then site improvements at our schools are just some of the the larger projects that we did in capital. So together, the commissioners and this Board of Education have been able to build a really great partnership, made decisions to close and consolidate schools to reduce costs, the county purchasing and repurposing our schools to help us reduce the costs, building those two new great schools, the purchase of our old central office and leasing this building to us, proactively us using our COVID money for capital, plus they gave us some COVID money for technology. We really are changing our focus on our facilities to preventative maintenance and having our beautiful buildings, and really making education a priority. That's been the key in our partnership with the commissioners. So in terms of capital funding, our history, just so everybody remembers and the new people will know. So Article 44, which is one of the taxes that we actually received funding for. Part of that was used to put in the Old Dock sewer lines at about $1 million. Article 40 and 42 has been used for capital projects and the loan payment for Cerro Gordo until 2022. Lottery funds, we didn't receive that for 3 years, but we do receive lottery funds now. They changed that in the law. Basically, the capital funds that we received on their own is somewhere between $500,000 and $650,000 for the last few years. And with all those sources together, over the last few years, we've received $2+ million every year over time between all of those. Okay?
That's per year.
That's per year. So today's picture, where we are right now. So this past year, for this school year, our capital outlay, basically appropriation, was the $650,978. And then we had Article 40 and 42 was $2.229 million to give us a total of $2,880,277 was what we were given. They used Article 44 for our debt payment this year of $631,461. That's the interim financing on the loans. And then we have used ESSER funds, COVID money, to cover capital needs. We've obviously, again, reduced our footprint. We had grants at $1.1 million on capital. We also have an Office of Civil Rights audit that's coming next week, and we have no idea what the cost will be for that because it will be about any changes to our facilities in our high schools to ensure access for every student is what they're going to look at. And then obviously the potential new school on the eastern end where we have applied for that grant for the last 2 years. So our capital priorities, you can click the list. This is the list of our capital projects from each school. The link at the top, you can open up and see all of the different requests. Those projects, it will show 5 years out as well as this year, and then what we have placed basically in that capital for this year and what's funded under ESSER for this year, this coming up year. Most of what's listed in the capital line item or the capital column of what we're suggesting to be able to cover are just required items and necessities. There's not anything like fuel tank repair, ADA upgrades, the upgrade to sewer station, asbestos abatement, some lighting. We have to, at East, we've got to do some work on the courtyard. I think that's probably going to even come out in the OCR audit. Yep. Some fencing at Chadburn. West Columbus School, the new school needs a storage building for their mower. I mean, you see there are things that we just have to do. There's painting and some flooring replacement that has to occur. None of those are like luxury items or things that, we think of as just wants. They really are just needs, necessities. And those are, for this year, the requests. You can see the total requests for everything for 5 years out is, when you go to the bottom, is almost $68 million. For just this year, what really could be done this year is right around $12 million. But what we're suggesting as the needs, the required necessities, is around $4 million. $3 million, because there's some ESSER that's still in the, some of that's still from, hopefully we'll finish it up this year, but if not, would fall into next year. So the request for capital the request that we're making in terms of capital is that our capital amount and Article 40 and 42 appropriation remain the same, the 2.8 million. And the loan payment, we believe 1.7 million, which would be an additional 1.1 million over what they're paying this year in terms of debt payment, that basically the county provide that. And because if they don't, and we have to pick up the 1.7 and they left us at the same appropriation, we would only have 1.1 million for necessities.
$4 million worth of work.
Right. Now, Jonathan and I were talking this afternoon, we're hoping, because this last 1.7 million estimate was when the loan rate was 2.75%. We think it's 2.25%. It is. But the amount of the loan went up a little bit over what we had originally. So it may be that the loan payment is really a little bit closer to 1.5 million, but still, it still is more than we can afford in our capital and our funding. So overall request is current expense increase by 15%, and that capital funding and Articles 40 and 42 remain the same, and the commissioners pick up the loan payment for the new schools without reducing funding. Any questions or anything that I need to adjust before next week?
Question that I do have is there any, one thing I think that would be good to go in here is like a percentage of the increase of costs, just on things that we're buying, fuel, and all the stuff that we've increased. It would be really nice to be able to show them, hey, from 2020 to 2022 here, we've been, just our cost that we even, is 15 or 20% or whatever it is that it's went up. So that, we're asking for 15% of an increase, but really we're not going to get an increase. It's just going to cover the price.
Right.
The cost of everything has went up so much.
Well, and if you increase 15%, so our fixed cost increase is 750,000. Okay, if there's a 6% pay increase.
Right.
15% is 900,000. So really, that's all just covering those fixed cost increase. That's all it's covering. And I'll make sure to point that out.
Well, yeah, and I think that would be very, we're asking for a lot, which we should, but at the same time, making sure that they do understand that, the increases,
Yep.
it's just stuff that we're feeling.
Right.
And if we don't get it, we're just gonna have to.
We have to make cuts if we don't get it.
Right.
Any other questions or comments on that?
I don't have any.
Okay, all right. All right, so that is next Tuesday, and I think it's at 6, but I will make sure of the time to, I think it's probably at the Commissioners' Chambers.
Oh, that's just where y'all are going, right?
No, that's for all of us.
That's everybody. I won't be here. I've got meetings I've got to
Everybody,
attend.
Next
Yeah.
Tuesday, but I'll verify the time.
You the man.
Tuesday, you say?
It's Tuesday on the 14th. Yeah. But I will make sure of the time. I probably have it in an email somewhere.
You send it to us.
Yep, I will.
Thank you.
Does it say 5:30? Probably dinner and then presentation.
And it will be at.
Yeah,
At the
last year it
Commissioners'
was at the Commissioners' Chambers.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
They had a,
Yeah. All right, so we just need a motion for a closed session.
I move that Columbus County Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of discussing information that is privileged, confidential, or not public matter. In the general statute, I can't read it because this is.
second.
Yes, second. 143-318.
I have a motion by Mr. Coleman and a second by Mr. Long for us to go into closed session. All in favor of going into closed session at this time, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All right. I had to do that one time.